When Captain James Harrington's hand gripped the yoke at 22,000 feet over Germany, he didn't know he had 17 minutes to choose between 10 lives and his soul. The bomber shuddered, oil pressure dropping on engine 3, navigator's blood spreading across the maps, and Schweinfurt, the target that had already swallowed 60 bombers that morning, still 30 miles ahead. He could turn back, save his crew, or he could finish what they came to do, but nobody told him the choice would cost everything. The briefing room at Thorpe Abbott's Air Base fell silent when the curtain pulled back from the wall map. August 17th, 1943, 0600 hours. 300 officers stared at a red line stretching deep into the heart of Nazi Germany, deeper than any bomber had flown in daylight, deeper than most of them would return from. "Gentlemen," Colonel Preston's voice cut through the cigarette smoke, "your target is Schweinfurt, ball-bearing factories. Destroy them, and we cripple every tank, every aircraft, every weapon system the Reich produces." Harrington sat in the third row, his crew around him. He'd flown 14 missions. 14 times he'd brought his flying fortress home. 14 times he'd kept his promise to the 9 men who trusted him with their lives. Lieutenant Tommy Chen, his co-pilot, leaned close. "That's 250 miles into Germany, Skipper. No fighter escort past the border." Harrington studied the map. The route crossed the most heavily defended airspace in Europe. Hundreds of German fighters would rise to meet them. Thousands of anti-aircraft guns would track their path. The odds were mathematical, brutal, clear. "Current intelligence," Preston continued, "indicates light resistance." Someone laughed. Dark, knowing. Intelligence was always wrong about resistance. Harrington's bombardier, Lieutenant Mark Sullivan, cracked his knuckles. Light resistance. Like Regensburg was light resistance. Regensburg had been 4 days ago. 47 bombers lost. 470 men dead or captured in a single afternoon. The numbers were still fresh, still bleeding, but the briefing continued. Target altitude, approach angle, rally points. All the careful plans that would disintegrate the moment the first fighter attacked. Harrington watched his crew. Radio operator Danny O'Brien, 20 years old, writing a letter he'd leave in his footlocker. Tail gunner Rodriguez, rosary beads moving through scarred fingers. Ball turret gunner Phillips, studying reconnaissance photos like they might reveal a safe path through hell. They trusted him. That was the weight Harrington carried. Not the 4 engines and 50,000 pounds of B-17, not the bombs or the fuel or the ammunition. The trust, the unspoken promise that his decisions would bring them home. "Wheels up at 0900, Preston announced. "Give them hell, gentlemen." The room emptied in silence. No cheers, no bravado. Just men walking toward their bombers, carrying the knowledge that some of those footsteps were the last they'd ever take on English soil. Outside, the August morning spread gray and cold across the airfield. 52 B-17s sat in neat rows, their aluminum skin catching the weak sunlight. Ground crews made final checks. Armorers loaded bombs. Men said quiet goodbyes to Earth. Harrington walked around his bomber, performing the ritual inspection he'd done 14 times before. The nose art, a fierce angel with a flaming sword and the name Righteous Fury, watched him with painted eyes. Someone had added a row of 14 bombs below the name. 14 missions, 11 more until the magic number. 25 missions meant rotation home, meant survival. "She's ready, Captain." Chief Mechanic Williams wiped his hands on an oil-stained rag. "All 4 engines purring. Fixed that hydraulic leak in the number 2 turret." "Thanks, Chief." Williams hesitated. "Schweinfurt's a bad one, sir. Real bad. My brother flew the first raid there. April. Didn't come back." Harrington met the older man's eyes, found grief there, and anger, and something else, a question. Why keep sending them? Why keep feeding young men into the same meat grinder? "I'll bring her back," Harrington said. The words felt hollow. Promises always did before a mission. His crew assembled at the hard stand. 9 faces, 9 lives in his hands. Chen, the co-pilot, 24, Berkeley graduate, wanted to be an architect. Drew buildings in his spare time, intricate structures that would never be built. Sullivan, bombardier, 23, Boston Irish, 7 younger siblings waiting for him. Carried their photos in his jacket. Talked about opening a bar after the war. Lieutenant James Morrison, navigator, 26, Oklahoma farm boy, could read stars like his father read soil. Quiet, steady, the kind of calm that held things together when they fell apart. Technical Sergeant Danny O'Brien, radio operator, 20, Philadelphia, youngest of the crew. Still wrote his mother every day. Still believed they'd all make it home. Staff Sergeant Mike Rodriguez, tail gunner, 22, Texas. Fastest hands on the gun triggers. Had saved them twice with impossible shots. Prayed before every mission, sometimes during. Staff Sergeant Eddie Phillips, ball turret gunner, 21. Detroit, smallest man on the crew. Fit into the cramped sphere beneath the bomber where others couldn't. Never spoke about the nightmares. Staff Sergeant Frank Weber, waist gunner, 25. Milwaukee, mechanic's son. Could fix anything with wire and prayer. Kept a hip flask he never drank from. Just held it. Talisman against the dark. Staff Sergeant Joe Martinez, waist gunner, 23. New Mexico, artist. Sketched the crew in a notebook he kept in his flight suit. Drew them as heroes, as men who would live forever. Technical Sergeant Harold Bishop, flight engineer and top turret gunner, 27, Montana. Oldest of the crew, father figure. Steady presence, had flown with Harrington since the beginning. "All right, boys," Harrington's voice carried over the engine noise from other bombers starting up. "You know the drill. This is a tough one, but we're tougher. We watch each other's backs. We do our jobs, and we come home together." They nodded. Some touched lucky charms. Some made the sign of the cross. Some just breathed. "Let's mount up." The crew climbed through the waist door into the bomber's aluminum belly. Harrington pulled himself up last, sealing them inside their flying fortress. The interior smelled of oil, metal, and the lingering ghost of fear from previous missions. Oxygen masks hung like strange fruit, ammunition belts coiled in ready boxes. Everything rattled and shook as the first engine coughed to life. Harrington settled into the left seat. Chen took the right. Through the greenhouse nose below them, Sullivan and Morrison arranged their instruments. Maps, bomb site, calculations of death. "Pre-flight checklist," Harrington called through the intercom. The familiar ritual began. Each system checked, each man reporting ready. The checklist was prayer and procedure merged, something to hold on to as they prepared to leave the ground. "Control tower, this is Righteous Fury, ready for taxi." "Fury, you're cleared. Godspeed, Captain." The B-17 lumbered forward, joining the queue of bombers rolling toward the runway. Through the cockpit glass, Harrington watched the plane ahead of them. Lucky strike, accelerate and lift into the gray sky. Then another, then another. The air filled with the thunder of Wright cyclone engines. The earth trembled. "Our turn," Chen said. Harrington advanced the throttles. 4 engines roared. The bomber picked up speed, heavy with fuel and bombs. The runway markers blurred past, the tail lifted, and then the earth fell away. They climbed through clouds into sharp blue sky. Around them, the formation assembled. 52 bombers gathering into combat boxes. Each box a constellation of firepower and fragility. Each plane holding 10 lives. At 12,000 feet, the order came. Oxygen masks on. The crew switched to bottled air. The world became the sound of breathing and engines. In, out, the rhythm of staying alive. They climbed higher. 20,000 feet, 22,000. The air temperature dropped to 40 below zero. Frost formed on the inside of the windows. The gunners stamped their feet in their positions, fighting cold that could kill as surely as bullets. Below them, England disappeared. The North Sea stretched like hammered metal, and beyond it, the coast of occupied Europe approached. Crossing into enemy territory, Morrison's voice crackled over the intercom. "Time on target, 2 hours, 15 minutes. Harrington scanned the sky. Still clear, still safe, but not for long. The formation tightened. Each bomber tucked close to its neighbors. Overlapping fields of fire. The theory was simple. Stay together, and the combined firepower of 1350 caliber machine guns per plane would break any fighter attack. Stay together and survive. Break formation and die. Skipper, Bishop called from the top turret. Fighters at 2 o'clock high. Looks like our escort. P-47 Thunderbolts swept past, American fighters escorting them to the German border. Their presence was comforting. Brief. Everyone knew they didn't have the range to go all the way to Schweinfurt. At the border, the P-47s waggled their wings and turned back. The bombers continued alone. Well, Chen muttered, that's that. Stay sharp, Harrington ordered. Call out anything that moves. The German landscape rolled beneath them. Patchwork fields, small villages. From 5 miles up, it looked peaceful, beautiful. Like none of the terrible things happening down there were real, but they were real. And in minutes, the sky itself would prove it. Fighters, 10 o'clock level! Rodriguez's shout cracked across the intercom. Focke-Wulfs, 5, no, 8. Jesus, they're everywhere. The first attack came fast. German fighters dove through the formation, cannons blazing. Tracer rounds arced through the air like deadly fireworks. The bombers' guns answered, 50 caliber thunder filling the sky. A B-17 to Harrington's left took cannon fire in the wing. Fuel vapor streamed behind it, then ignited. The bomber fell out of formation, trailing fire and screaming men. Stay in formation! Harrington gripped the yoke. Every instinct screamed to maneuver, to dodge, to run, but breaking formation meant death. The only safety was in the group's combined firepower. Another attack. Messerschmitt 109s this time, coming head-on. The closing speed was insane. The fighters flashed past so close Harrington could see the pilots' faces. Got one, Martinez yelled. Scratch one, Jerry! But there were always more. The German fighters came in waves, attacking, breaking off, circling, attacking again. The ammunition counters spun down. Shell casings littered the bomber's floor. The acrid smell of gunpowder filled the thin air. Morrison, how long to target? Harrington asked. 72 minutes. 72 minutes. An eternity. The sky was chaos. Bombers fell. Parachutes blossomed. Some didn't. German fighters pressed attacks with suicidal aggression. They knew what Schweinfurt meant. They knew they had to stop the bombers. Number 3 engine, Bishop shouted. Oil pressure dropping. Harrington checked the gauges. Engine 3 was dying. Oil streamed from a punctured line. Not catastrophic yet, but getting there. Can you fix it? Not up here, not in combat. They flew on. The bomber shuddered with each burst from the guns. Chen called out fighter positions. The crew worked in deadly harmony. Training and terror merged. A flak burst exploded off the left wing. Shrapnel punched through aluminum skin. The bomber rang like a struck bell. Everyone okay? Harrington demanded. Silence. Then, Weber's hit. Martinez's voice tight with panic. Waist position. He's bleeding bad. O'Brien, get back there. Stop the bleeding. On it, Skipper. Harrington flew. That's all he could do. Fly straight, hold formation, trust his crew. Below, Germany scrolled past. Towns, forests, rivers. All of it defended. All of it deadly. 40 minutes to target, Morrison reported. The fighter attacks intensified. The Germans knew the target now. Every available fighter scrambled to intercept. The sky became a meat grinder. Another B-17 exploded. Just disintegrated in a massive fireball. No time for parachutes. 10 men simply ceased to exist. The formation shrank. Started with 52 bombers, now maybe 40 still flying. The numbers bled away. Engine 3's gone, Bishop called. Feathered the prop, but we're losing speed. 3 engines, still flyable, still able to keep formation, barely. How's Weber? Harrington asked. Stop the bleeding, O'Brien responded. Shrapnel in his leg. He's conscious, in pain, but alive. Alive. For now. The fighters pressed. Relentless. Desperate. Both sides knew this was it. This was the moment. Schweinfurt had to be destroyed or defended. Everything else was irrelevant. 20 minutes, Morrison said. 20 minutes to the target. Then the bomb run. Then the long flight home. If they made it. Harrington's hands ached on the yoke. His eyes burned from scanning the sky. Chen monitored the engines, the fuel, the hydraulics, everything that kept them flying. The crew fought. That's what they did. They fought. Then the flak started. Black clouds erupted around the formation. German 80 now guns opened up from below. Barrage fire, filling the sky with exploding steel. The flak didn't need to hit directly. Near misses sent shrapnel through aluminum like paper. The bomber rocked. Shrapnel peppered the fuselage. Something hit the rudder. The controls got heavier, but they flew. "Bomb bay doors open," Sullivan announced. "Beginning the run." The bomb run. 10 minutes of flying absolutely straight and level. No evasion, no maneuvering, just pointing at the target while every gun in Germany tried to kill them. The bombardier took over. His hands on the Norden bomb sight, his eye pressed to the scope. The bomber was his now. Harrington just held it steady. Left, left, steady, steady. Flak burst so close the bomber jumped. The windscreen cracked. Something hot and sharp grazed Harrington's shoulder. Pain flared, but he held the yoke steady. "Steady! Bombs away!" The bomber lurched upward as 4,000 pounds of explosives dropped free. Below, Schweinfurt's factories waited. In seconds, the bombs would fall, destruction would rain down, but something was wrong. "We've got to hang up," Sullivan yelled. "One bomb didn't release. It's hung up in the bay." A hung bomb. Still armed, still ready to explode, jostling in the bomb bay with every vibration. "Can you free it?" Harrington asked. "I can try, but if it drops while the doors are closing, the bomb would hit the doors, detonate, vaporize them all." "Abort the door closure," Harrington ordered. "Leave them open." But open bomb bay doors meant massive drag, meant they couldn't keep up with the formation, meant they'd be alone, and alone meant death. The formation pulled ahead. The other bombers closed their doors and accelerated. Within seconds, righteous fury was falling behind. "Skipper," Chen's voice was tight. "We can't maintain altitude on 3 engines with the doors open. We're losing 100 feet per minute." Harrington checked the gauges. Chen was right. They were descending, slowly, inevitably. "How long until we're in range of the ground fire?" he asked Morrison. 10 minutes at this rate." 10 minutes until they dropped low enough for every machine gun and rifle to reach them. 10 minutes until they were in the killing zone. "Sullivan, status on that bomb." "Working on it." The shackles jammed. Behind them, Schweinfurt burned. The mission was complete. The factories were hit, the objective achieved. They could go home. Except they couldn't keep up, couldn't defend themselves, couldn't survive alone. The choice formed in Harrington's mind with terrible clarity. Option 1. Keep trying to fix the bomb. Keep the doors open. Fall behind. Get picked apart by fighters or shredded by ground fire. Probably die. All of them. Option 2. Close the bomb bay doors. Let the bomb hit them and detonate. Definitely die. All of them. Instantly. Option 3. Jettison the bomb manually. Risk it exploding on the way out. Possibly die, but maybe, survive. But there was no manual jettison for a hung bomb. Someone would have to go into the bomb bay, physically push the 2,000-pound bomb free, while fighters circled, while the bomber shook and rattled, while death waited in every direction. "I'll do it," Sullivan said, reading Harrington's thoughts. "It's my bomb, my responsibility." "Negative," Bishop's voice cut in. "I'm flight engineer. I know the systems. I go." "Nobody goes," Harrington said. "I'm shutting the doors." Silence on the intercom. Heavy. Shocked. "Skipper." Chen turned to look at him. "That bomb will detonate. Maybe. Maybe not. But staying like this? That's certain death. At least this way we have a chance." "A chance?" Rodriguez's voice cracked. "That's a 2,000-pound bomb. It'll blow us apart." "It might not hit the doors hard enough to trigger," Harrington said. He didn't believe it. Nobody did. But he said it anyway. "This is insane," O'Brien whispered. "This is survival," Harrington replied. "Morrison, plot a course home. Best speed. Chen, prepare to close the doors on my mark." "Captain," Bishop said slowly, "there might be another way." "Talk." I rappel down into the bay. Secure myself to the catwalk. Use a crowbar to lever the bomb free while the doors are still open. Once it drops, we close up and run for home. In combat conditions, with fighters around, it's better than suicide, Harrington thought. Calculated, weighed 10 lives against impossible odds. The crew waited, their fate in his hands. Whatever he decided, they'd follow. That was the contract, the unspoken bond. But what decision saved them? Which path led home? How long would you need? Harrington asked Bishop. 3 minutes, maybe 4. We don't have 4 minutes. We'll be at fighter altitude in 2. Then I better work fast. Harrington closed his eyes. Saw the faces, Chen's parents in California, Sullivan's 7 siblings, O'Brien's mother, Rodriguez's girl back in Texas, Phillips's kid brother who looked up to him, Weber bleeding in the waist, Martinez's sketches, Morrison's quiet strength. 9 lives, 9 families, 9 futures, hanging on one decision. Do it, Harrington said. But you've got 2 minutes. After that, I'm closing the doors with you in them or not. Understood. Bishop unbuckled and moved aft. The crew watched him go. One man descending into a chamber with an armed bomb. One man betting his life on skill and luck. Fighters at 6 o'clock, Rodriguez called. 4 of them, Fokker Wolves, closing fast. Keep them off us, Harrington ordered. Buy Bishop time. The tail guns opened up. Tracer rounds reached for the diving fighters. The Germans scattered, regrouped, attacked from different angles. 1 minute, Harrington said. In the bomb bay, Bishop worked. The catwalk was inches wide. The slipstream howled through the open doors. The bomb hung stubborn. The shackle wouldn't release. The fighters attacked again. Cannon rounds walked across the wing. Something in the number 2 engine shrieked. The bomber shuddered. 90 seconds. Bishop jammed the crowbar under the bomb. Levered, pushed. The metal groaned. The shackle bent, but held. They're coming around again, Rodriguez yelled. I'm almost out of ammo. 60 seconds. The bomb shifted. 1 inch, 2 inches. Bishop pushed harder. The crowbar slipped. He caught himself, nearly fell through the open doors into 5-mile-high air. Come on, he muttered. Come on, you bastard. A fighter flashed past, so close its wingtip nearly touched the bomber. Martinez fired. The German jinked away. 30 seconds, Harrington said. Bishop, I'm closing the doors. Wait, almost. Got it. The shackle gave. The bomb dropped, fell away into German sky. 2,000 pounds of high explosive tumbling toward Earth. It's clear. Close the doors. Chen hit the switch. The hydraulics whined. The doors began to close. Bishop scrambled up the catwalk as the opening narrowed. 10 feet, 5 feet, 2 feet. He pulled himself into the fuselage as the doors sealed shut. Doors closed, Chen reported. Increasing speed. The bomber surged forward. Without the drag, even on 3 engines they could keep pace, could catch up to the formation ahead. Everyone okay? Harrington asked. Weber's still bleeding, O'Brien said. But stable. Bishop? Yeah. The flight engineer's breathing was heavy on the intercom. Yeah, I'm good. Could use a drink, though. Get in line, Martinez muttered. They flew, chased the formation, slowly closed the distance. Around them, fighters still circled, still attacked, but less aggressive now. Running low on fuel and ammunition, the formation welcomed them back. Righteous fury slipped into position, protected again by the overlapping fire of neighboring bombers. How's our fuel? Harrington asked. Chen checked the gauges. Tight, real tight. That open bomb bay burned a lot. We'll make it home, but there's no margin for detours. They crossed back over the German border, over occupied territory. The fighters fell away. Without bases nearby, they couldn't pursue. But the bombers were alone again, and wounded, and bleeding fuel and hydraulics and hope. England appeared on the horizon. Green fields, safe landing strips. Home. Thorpe Abbott's This is Righteous Fury, requesting priority landing. Wounded aboard. 1 engine out. Fury, you're cleared for straight-in approach. Ambulance standing by. The formation broke up, each bomber peeling off toward its assigned airfield. Some wouldn't make it, would ditch in the channel or crash land in fields. The mission cost was still being counted. Harrington brought the bomber down. Gear extended, flaps down. The runway stretched ahead, the numbers counted down. Altitude, airspeed, distance. The wheels touched. Concrete rushed beneath them. The bomber settled, rolled, slowed. They were down. They were home. They were alive. Harrington cut the engines. The silence after 10 hours of noise was profound. Ringing, empty. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. They just sat in their positions, breathing, existing, processing survival. Finally, Chen said, "We made it." "Yeah," Harrington replied. "We made it." The crew unbuckled, climbed out into English air. Solid ground felt strange after so long in the sky. Some kissed the grass, some vomited, some just stood, shaking. The ambulance took Weber. He'd live. The wound was clean. He'd fly again. Probably. The others gathered around the bomber, counted the holes, hundreds of them, shrapnel and bullets. The tail section looked like Swiss cheese. How they'd survived was mathematics, and miracle mixed. 15 missions, Chen said. 10 more and we're done. 10 more missions. 10 more times climbing into the bomber. 10 more times rolling the dice with death. Harrington looked at his crew. All of them there. All of them alive. Because of what? Skill? Luck? The choice to send Bishop into the bomb bay instead of closing the doors? Would a different choice have killed them all? He'd never know. None of them would. That was the weight of command, the burden of choosing. The debrief came later. Intelligence officers asking questions. Harrington reported the facts. Target hit. Factories burning. 1 engine lost. 1 man wounded. Bomb bay doors malfunction. Corrected in flight. They didn't ask about the choice. About the 2 minutes when 10 lives hung on a decision. Those moments belonged only to the crew. That night, Harrington lay in his bunk and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow, they'd fly again, or the next day, or the day after, until they hit 25 missions, or until the statistics caught up with them. 15 down, 10 to go. But tonight, his crew was alive. Tonight, they were together. Tonight, the choice he'd made had been the right one. Tomorrow might be different. Tomorrow, the choice might kill them all, but that was tomorrow's burden. Tonight, they'd survived. The next morning, a new list posted in the briefing room. Names of those who didn't come back. From Schweinfurt, 36 bombers lost, 360 men. Most dead, some prisoners, a few evaders heading for neutral territory. The raid was deemed a success. The ball-bearing factories were heavily damaged. German war production would suffer, but standing in front of that list, reading those names, Harrington felt the cost. Each name was a crew. Each crew was 10 men. Each man was a son, a brother, a father, a friend. The price of success was counted in those names. "We're flying again tomorrow," Chen said, reading the operations board. "Different target. Might be easier." "There's no easy," Harrington replied. They walked to the mess hall, ate breakfast, talked about nothing important. Movies, baseball, home. Anything but the war. But the war was always there. In the empty chairs, in the quiet conversations, in the knowledge that every meal might be the last with friends who wouldn't survive the next mission. That afternoon, Harrington walked to the bomber. Righteous fury sat on the hard stand, ground crews swarming over it, patching holes, replacing the engine, making it ready to fly again. "She'll be good as new," Chief Williams said. "Better, even. Reinforced the tail section, added extra armor around the waist guns." "Thanks, Chief." "Captain," Williams hesitated, "heard what happened up there. The bomb bay. Bishop going down into it. That took guts. He's a good man. They all are. You keep bringing them back. Not many captains can say that. I've been lucky. Luck's part of it, but it ain't all of it." Williams looked at the bomber, at the patched holes and new metal. "Command is about choices, hard ones. You made the right call up there. Did I? Or did I just get lucky? Does it matter? Your crew's alive. That's what counts." Harrington nodded, but the question stayed with him, would stay with him through the next 10 missions, through every choice he'd have to make. Because command wasn't about always being right. It was about making choices when there were no good options, about carrying the weight of those decisions, about living with the consequences, and about bringing his crew home every time, no matter what. That was the promise, the bond, the reason they trusted him. He couldn't break it. 2 days later, they flew again. Different target, same danger. The bomber lifted off, the crew took their positions, and somewhere over Europe, another choice would need to be made. But that was the job. That was war. Fly, fight, choose, survive, and hope that when the final count came, the choices would have been worth it. Righteous fury climbed into grey English sky. Behind it, 15 mission markers. Ahead, 10 more. Each one a gamble. Each one a test. But Captain James Harrington gripped the yoke and flew. Because that's what he did, what they all did. They flew into the fire. They made impossible choices. They brought each other home. And they'd keep doing it, mission after mission, choice after choice, until 25 was reached, or until the statistics caught up. But today, they flew, together, as a crew, as brothers, and that was enough.